Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the next episode of the Hillbilly Files. And today I am out as usual on yet another all but desolate stretch of road. There's a car. Well, it's not totally desolate. But anyway, we are out at a very special site. As a matter of fact, today, the vines have kind of taken over just a little bit. Kudzu kind of has a tendency to run wild, don't it? They say that it can grow in the presence of water a foot a day. Believe it. They call it the vine that ate the South. But today I am out in Mingo County, West Virginia. Logan's down this way. And I am in Sterrett, West Virginia is the name of it. And I am at the site of Cap Hatfield's home. This is from the Hatfield-McCoy feud. This is Cap Hatfield's old home site right there, right in the center of your screen. Now, some of you may know, Cap was one of the, well, let's just be honest, he was one of the meanest of the feud participants.
Cap Hatfield, whose full name was William Anderson Hatfield, was the second son of Devil Anse Hatfield and Levisa Chafin Hatfield. Born in 1863, he grew up during the years when the Hatfield family was becoming one of the most influential families in the region. Among the Hatfields, Cap developed a reputation as one of the feud's most determined participants. Cap Hatfield grew up in a large mountain family as one of 13 children. Opportunities for education were limited. Cap married Nancy Smith Glenn, who was already a pregnant widow at 16. Cap was about 18. He had little formal schooling and reportedly could not read or write. She gave birth to her son Joe Glenn, and Cap raised him. Nancy became one of the most important influences in his life. She taught Cap to read and encouraged him to continue learning. What began with lessons from his young wife grew into a lifelong interest in education. The experience stayed with him. Having missed many educational opportunities himself, Cap wanted a different future for his children and strongly supported their schooling. Several went on to successful careers, but don't think this was a fairy tale. Nancy had her hands full with him. Cap was involved in many violent situations and had times he drank and acted a fool. His most famous role came during the New Year's night attack on the McCoy home on January 1st, 1888. Cap and Jim Vance led a group of Hatfield supporters to the McCoy cabin on Blackberry Creek. The cabin was surrounded and eventually burned. During the attack, Randall's adult children, Calvin McCoy and Alifair McCoy, were killed, and Randolph McCoy's wife, Sarah, suffered severe injuries. The attack shocked the nation and was told in papers everywhere you can think of almost. After the raid, Kentucky authorities sought the participants, and Cap became one of the most wanted Hatfields, with rewards offered for his capture. He was present shortly after when Uncle Jim Vance was shot point blank by Bad Frank Phillips, and Cap ran away saving his life. The feud did not mark the end of Cap's violent history. During Election Day violence in 1896, Cap Hatfield and his stepson Joe Glenn became involved in a gunfight with members of the Rutherford family. John Rutherford, Elliot Rutherford, and Henderson Chambers were killed during the violence. Cap and Joe Glenn were later arrested and brought to Williamson to stand trial. Cap lived long after the violence ended. Local stories and accounts about Cap Hatfield often describe him as fearless, mean, and sometimes paranoid, often carrying a favorite knife, and as a man who seemed to escape death time and time again. Over the course of his life, he was involved in gunfights, feuds, arrests, and violent encounters that could easily have ended his story much sooner. He was reportedly shot more than once and survived dangers that would have killed many other men. Yet in the end, like every figure from the feud, Cap Hatfield could not outrun time forever. After surviving years of violence and hardship, he eventually met the one thing no man escapes. Death finally caught up with him, bringing to a close the life of one of the last surviving major figures of the Hatfield-McCoy feud. Cap Hatfield died in 1930 at a Baltimore hospital from a possible brain tumor, though some say it was complications from a bullet from long ago.
Like I said, he was one of the most infamous of all of the feudists. But look at here. I won't go on it. They've got it posted, no trespassing. But we'll stop at the edge. I just wanted to show y'all something. Look at this. I can get through the vines. There we go. The home of Cap Hatfield. Started to say old. The home of Cap Hatfield. Bridge erected October 1930. And it has the contractor's name. But you can see the bridge over here. You can see part of the bridge here. And how you would go right straight across into this great big open area that is completely overgrown right now. But that is where Cap would have lived. That's his house. Now, like I said, Cap was a bit of an odd one, even by Feud standards. You know, I did a video here once before when we first found this place, and I don't remember much about it. I remember doing it on an old Android phone, if that says anything. So, but I do remember one line from that video. One line in particular stands out in my mind from that video. The line was, "If you have a favorite murder weapon, you are probably not the nicest guy in town." I remember that line. That's a good line. I remember that one. But yeah, he did. I mean, there's several old stories about Cap Hatfield. I mean, just all kinds of crazy stories. And the one I came over the other time, the story I told, was about a time that there was a doctor, and he had basically got into an argument with Cap, and he managed to shoot Cap. It was one of the rare instances where Cap didn't get the drop on the other guy. Anyway, he shoots Cap, and you know, Cap's back at the home place and all this stuff, and you know, he's mortally wounded. You know, he's, well, not mortally wounded, but badly wounded, we'll put it that way. He gets a visit from a few people who know, and they didn't really ask the doctor, didn't really say a whole lot. I got a coal truck coming. They only had one question for this doctor, right, that had just shot Cap Hatfield. Oh, that breeze feels good. That breeze feels good. I wish he'd go by again. Come back here. Anyway, one simple question. What do you think that devil ants... Hang on. Big breeze. Anyway, back to our question. Back to the question. What do you think that devil ants and the rest of the Hatfield clan will do to you and your family if Cap dies? Very powerful man. He was the patriarch of the Hatfield clan, not to mention his money assets and that sort of thing. So this is a very powerful man we're talking about, right? And you know that clan, the Hatfield clan, has a particular reputation. And they've just came and asked you point blank to your face, what do you think the Hatfield clan will do to you and your family if Cap dies? Well, the doctor, he takes good advice. Apparently he's a pretty smart man. He takes the advice. He goes and he takes the bullet out of Cap and saves Cap's life. The very man that put the bullet in Cap took the bullet back out. Now imagine that. Now, of course, Cap, you know, he had a lot of trouble with that particular wound, but he didn't die from it. He did eventually recover. Yeah, but you can see there's all kinds of trees over here, you know, fruit trees, chestnut trees, all kinds of different things. Very cold, trucky day, huh? Gotta hang on to your hat. Windy. Gotta hang on to your hat standing by the road when the cold truck goes by. But anyway, you can see, like I said, you know, you can see what's left of some of the ruins from here. Of course, the house set right back in here, and of course this bridge right here. But some of the old walls along the creek bank right here to keep the creek from eroding. Eroding. That's what the cars are doing. They're eroding. Get it? Anyway. Sorry. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. I won't do that no more. I apologize. But you can see where it's eroding, and the walls itself, the retainer walls, are starting to fall into the creek. You can see one laying down. This one over here has got a really bad lean to it, but hasn't fell yet. And there's one. There's a big slab, completely flat. But you can imagine. Can you imagine 100 years ago moving rocks that size into here? Wow. No kidding. No kidding. But I would imagine that back in its day, you know, that this was a very beautiful place. The land was cleared, the house sat back in there. Probably a really good place to go hunting too. Just way out in the middle of nowhere, all to yourself. Got a little babbling brook in front of your house. Kind of got your own little moat. As a matter of fact, you know, got your drawbridge in your moat. You pretty much set. You know, got your little fortress back in the woods. And I guess that was kind of the thinking behind it. Of course, Devil Anse, his father, lived right up this way, about a mile, and the graveyard where Devil Anse is buried is also right up here, the house and home, and cemetery as well. There may be a mile right up that way. So I can see why, you know, this would be very familiar. You know, it's right down the street from home. Kind of hard to imagine, isn't it? You know, you're looking at a modern day, you know, what we have these days, and just trying to imagine, you know, 100 plus years ago, what this place would have looked like. You can still see all kinds of flowers over here, and they're still growing. After all these years, the flowers are still growing. Big old trees, look at that. Y'all figure they put those out? Y'all figure Cap and his family put those out? It's a big old pine right there too. We like to take y'all to, you know, places like this, and, you know, I'm sure you could, like, you know, we've been here before. We've got old pictures and stuff, you know. You could recycle stuff, let's be honest. But rather than sit behind, you know, sit at a desk, we prefer to take you guys out and actually show you these places and tell you some of the stories. And but it's a warm day for it. It's about 90 degrees, and the kudzu seems to be loving it. Pretty old place though, ain't it? And you can see it goes way down here and extends way up that way as well. So he had a really big place. Who knows, maybe someday we'll get to explore, metal detect. How cool would that be, to go over and metal detect Cap Hatfield's old house? That would be really cool. But, you know, just an amazing old place and an amazing old history. You know, just right here out in the middle of nowhere in the woods in southern West Virginia. Wild, isn't it? The home place of Cap Hatfield. Alright guys, I guess I'm gonna get out of here, get off the side of the road, and get back up the road. So until the next episode, guys, next adventure, we'll see y'all a little bit later, I guess. Leo out from Cap Hatfield's house. See you guys later.